You are not your mind. And that is the first chapter out of Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. And I guess that when you are watching this, you probably, when you're in my environment, you probably read the book. But I think this is one of those books that you cannot just read once, you have to study it. And so I'm going to read something for you, which I think is very interesting. So you are not your mind, first chapter. The greatest obstacle to enlightenment. And this is what a lot of people are looking for. They want to know their true nature. They want to be enlightened. And so what is that? What does it mean? What does it mean to be enlightened? What is that? So he starts with a story. A beggar has been sitting by the side of the road for over 30 years. One day, a stranger walked by. "Spare some change?" mumbled the beggar, mechanically holding out his old baseball cap. "I have nothing to give you," said the stranger. Then he asked, "What's that you're sitting on?" "Nothing," replied the beggar, "just an old box. I've been sitting on it for as long as I can remember." "Ever looked inside?" asked the stranger. "No," said the beggar. "What's the point? There's nothing in it there." "Have a look inside," insisted the stranger. The beggar managed to pry open the lid. With astonishment, disbelief, and elation, it's not true, elation, I'm so sorry, he saw that the box was filled with gold. Every time I read this story, I know that I forgot it again. I am that stranger who has nothing to give you and who is telling you to look inside. And so that's Eckhart Tolle speaking. I am that stranger that has nothing to give you and who is telling you to look inside. Not inside any box as the parable, but somewhere even closer, inside yourself. But I'm not a beggar, I can hear you say. Those who have not found their true wealth, which is the radiant joy of being and the deep, unshakable peace that comes with it, are beggars. Even if they have great material wealth, they are looking outside for scraps of pleasure or fulfillment, for validation, security, or love, while they have a treasure within that not only includes all those things, but is infinitely greater than anything the world can offer. Isn't that beautiful? And that's only chapter number 1. The word enlightenment conjures up the idea of some superhuman accomplishment. And the ego likes to keep it that way. But it is simply not your natural state of felt oneness with being. It is a state of connectedness with something immeasurable and indestructible, something that almost paradoxically is essentially you, and yet it's much greater than you. It's finding your true nature beyond name and form. The inability to feel this connectedness gives rise to the illusion of separation from yourself and from the world around you. You then perceive yourself consciously or unconsciously as an isolated fragment. Fear arises, and conflict within and without becomes the norm. For all of you out there seeking through that connectedness, I started not to like the word connectedness anymore, because you don't have to connect with anything. There is no such thing as connecting. It's like you want to connect with something that is already connected. It's there already. There is no such thing as going and connect, because when you connect something, it means like you have something here and you have something there, and you connect the two pieces. But if this is already one, how do you connect those two pieces? They're connected already. So think about it. You are the infinite being. There's nothing to connect to. But I understand that for the purposes of for the purpose of conversation, we say we want to connect to the higher spirit. But at the same time, I think it's misleading. You are that consciousness. So there is nothing to connect to. And as long as you think you have to connect to something, it means that you have to go look for something outside of you that you can tap into. There's nothing to tap into. It's there. And so just sitting and breathing and feeling the connectedness that you are that, that's it. There's nothing else. That's it. So he goes on and he says, I love the Buddha's simple definition of enlightenment as the end of suffering. There's nothing superhuman in that, is there? Of course, as a definition, it is incomplete. And I get that because it's not the end of suffering. It only tells you what enlightenment is not, no suffering. But what's left when there is no more suffering? The Buddha is silent on that. And his silence implies that you'll have to find out for yourself. He uses a negative definition so that the mind cannot make it into something to believe in or into a superhuman accomplishment, a goal that is impossible for you to attain. Despite this precaution, the majority of Buddhists still believe that enlightenment is for the Buddha, not for them, at least not in this lifetime. And so, same thing again. There is nothing to connect to. And so there is no accomplishment. It is just a being, the end of suffering. And isn't that what everybody is looking for? Because the opposite of the end of suffering is being happy and joyful all the time. Because if there is no suffering, there is endless joy, endless bliss. So isn't that what we're all seeking? Endless bliss. And the endless bliss is not going to come from outside. The endless bliss is coming from inside. I hope I inspired you by reading the first chapter or part of the first chapter so that you can take it back in your hands and read it. The way I do it is I just open it every day and I read what's opening up. And so today that was what I was reading and I thought I'd share it with you. Have a wonderful day, you guys. Bye.